This is Bench Talk Live. Thanks to everyone joining in. If you joined us on Instagram for the pre-show, we got some great questions to get to today. I'm super excited about it. All right. Got a lot of great questions that came in through Instagram the other day that we're going to get through. Let some people join on here. Thanks for everyone tuning in, spending a little bit of your Tuesday afternoon with us. All right, hopefully we can answer some great questions, get you guys on track to benching heavier. Sip of coffee to the working man. We got a little panera this morning. I went over to panera bread for a little bit, and I swear to you that every time they see me sitting in the booth with my laptop, someone shuts the Wi-Fi off. It never fails. I don't know why, but they are very anti people sitting around with their laptops doing work, things like that, which I don't understand because there's plenty of open areas, but drives me nuts. I gotta find a private coffee shop right now because Starbucks isn't allowing indoor seating. I don't know if that's a statewide deal, but yeah, Panera Bread. I love the coffee, but Wi-Fi sucks, so I can never end up over there. Love the coffee though. Sip of coffee to the working man. All right. First question here by Every's Land is fabricated. There seems to be two kinds of JM press. One is more of an extension, one is more of a press. So that's just one of those situations where something gets labeled as a JM press, even though it's like a hybrid kind of blend. The only true JM press is how JM Blakely, the creator of it, would really coach it. You can actually see that on Elite FTS. It was actually a great video, and that's a true JM press. Anything else, I mean, it's easy to label something as a JM press. I label a dumbbell JM press, even though it's not really a JM press. It's really just an extension. But what you're doing is pretty much on an incline bench. I like to, get the dumbbell extension here, but have that rolling pronation of the arm. So that's something I just kind of label as dumbbell JM press. Also, the JM press push up. So it's very similar to if you had a barbell in your hands, you could do it like on the pins of a rack, and then you're just coming down in kind of a push-up format. It's real heavy on the triceps. So, yeah, it's just one of those things. It just gets labeled as is. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways you can manipulate an extension-based exercise with where you're positioning your elbows, where the weight is going, all that. Do what feels good. Matt, gotta have the big benches, coffee shop, and bench pressing. I always thought having a brewery and gym is the greatest combo. There's no better combo than that. But yeah, I think, especially for the morning birds, I think if we offered coffee at the brewery next to the gym or in the gym, and then offered some brews as the day went on, I think that's a great combo. I think you got something there, Matt. I think I fly down to Dallas and we start that. Steve, is there a difference between exercising and training? So my thought process behind that is exercise you're just doing to promote health and wellness. So when someone's exercising, they're not paying much attention to progression, and or seeing progress in any way. They're mostly just exercising in order to feel good about themselves, again, to promote health and wellness. So a bike ride, for example, if someone goes on a bike ride or they go hiking and they're not necessarily trying to seek progression, they're just trying to maintain a healthy lifestyle, something like that. So that's kind of falls on the umbrella of exercise for me. And then training is purposefully trying to bring about a effect of progression. So as a power lifter, that's more reps, more weight on the bar, adding more time under tension, whatever it is. We're always seeking to go into the gym and get better. And that's what I always try to encourage with our athletes is, with the accessories, for example, don't just go through the accessories. Don't just, pick a weight at random, right? Don't just completely do reps at random, but have some process behind it. I always try to add reps or add weight. I always try to seek progression, and that's where programming comes in. Program is really just about layering that progression. Okay, programming should not be just all right. Let's do that, just because we should try to do that. It's there's layers to it. You got to know what's the end goal. So something I like to know with our athletes is, when are you competing? When do you plan to compete? Can you give me a time frame there? And then I can start building off of that. So it gets difficult when there's not really a time frame, or it's kind of floating. For example, it's difficult to kind of set a program for someone when they may compete 2 months from now, but we don't really know. Um, are we just going to do a training cycle and just max out in the gym and see what we can get, and then start peaking for a meet? So it's really important, the end date, and what you're trying to accomplish. With brisket smoking in the back, that's right, Matt. Looks like Texas getting slammed with snow. I bet everyone's freaking out, shutting down, don't have nothing to wear. Training has a goal. I mean, that's a great way to put it, my friend. Training has a goal associated with it. Exercising is just kind of a general umbrella term for doing something healthy. Walking, um, biking, hiking, all that. Swimming. Swimming is hard, by the way. For the life of me, guys, this is gonna be real embarrassing, but it takes me 2 minutes, no joke, 2 minutes to go from one side of the pool and then back again to the other. So I guess 2 laps. Takes me about 2 minutes to do. So I definitely can work on my swimming. Sip all of our to a copy to sip of coffee to all our bros that have had to do the roll of shame after falling off the bench. Sip of coffee to you. Man, it was 1 degree today. I'm worried bench day will be interrupted tomorrow. Yeah, so that's uncommon for Texas, I imagine. Um, I'm happy that it looks like the forecast is gonna get pretty nice and warm towards the end of the week. So that's encouraging. I'm hoping when I go down there in March, I don't have to deal with any cold weather, because I'm trying to get out of the cold weather. So I'm hoping at least by March 20th we're looking good. Would you program JM presses for lower reps? Yeah, definitely. I would go as low as like 5 reps. I don't think you got to go any less than that. But definitely, I think going for a top set of 5 on a JM press is a good thing to do. And then just in general, too, it's usually one of those movements where you can handle more weight. And my general rule is, if you can handle more weight on a movement compared to something else, it's usually one you're going to want to hit for lower reps, okay, to bring about a good strength training effect. If it's a move, so look at tricep pushdown versus JM press. You're going to handle considerably more weight with that barbell doing that kind of a tricep movement, which is kind of a breed between an extension and a close grip bench. You're going to be able to handle more weight. So therefore, use lower reps, get a good training effect out of it, up the intensity, versus like a tricep pushdown. There's only so much weight you're going to be able to do on a tricep pushdown. You see some monsters in there just completely hammering a tricep pushdown, putting all their force into the thing and trying to press out the stack. But a simple isolated movement like that, I like to hit for more reps, 15, 20 reps, really get a good burn, a good pump going. So I do like to split accessories into 2 different categories. Your heavy accessories, like we're doing a big barbell row, something like that. And then as the workout goes on, do your lighter isolative type of exercises, do it for more reps, try to get like that, think like a bodybuilder, more reps, that hypertrophy. So Ideal says you seem like one of those guys that sink to the bottom of the swimming pool. I probably am, my friend. I haven't been swimming in a while, but certainly great at sinking. Matt says, with working with the RPE scale, will the weight change either up or down depending on how fatigued or amped up you feel after a few sets? Yeah, so definitely if I program in an RPE range, which I don't do terribly often, usually with the programming I utilize now for most of our athletes, it's kind of work up to a top set, which is RPE based. I don't really input an RPE number. I usually just treat it as I write it in like 3 rep max, something like that. But Yeah, in situations where I do use an RPE or do a scale, like work up to an RPE 7 to 8, something like that. Um, in regards to changing weights, I definitely, if it's like a 5 by 5 or something like that, I definitely anticipate it maybe going up or down. Some people start to kind of prime up as they go through the training for the day. They feel like they're actually poised to lift more weight. That's not an uncommon thing. Especially if that said athlete doesn't take the time to warm up properly to get their just to get their body warm and their nervous system primed. If they don't warm up properly, and or they're a little bit of an older athlete, I find that doing a small progression in jumps and doing kind of a pyramid up to a top set allows them to really start to get the juices flowing and end up with a better performance instead of maybe taking bigger jumps and then trying to peak out at a certain weight too early. They just don't have as good performance. So yeah, I definitely anticipate weight to move around. That's why I always give a range if we're doing like volume work like that. I always try to give a range. Rakeem, how are you? I'm good, my friend. How are you doing? He says my sticking point is a few inches above the chest. Please help. So the first thing, again, that I look at anytime there's a mid-range sticking point is what's happening at the bottom end. How's the setup? That's going to be critical. If there's not a good tight setup in place, if there's no traction on the bench, then you're not going to be in a good position to carry through that strength off the chest through to a lockout. If you're sinking and heaving, all right, if you're letting that weight sink into your chest at all and you're trying to kick, leg drive, thrust the chest into the bar, all of that's gonna 9 times out of 10 create a big mid-range sticking point for someone. It's momentum-based lifting. And then the other thing I look at is bottom end positioning. Is there something out of whack, like you're tucking too much, or maybe you're just at too high of a touch point, something like that, not loading the lats properly. That's usually what's at play. Sometimes it's a situation where, yeah, you just need to get that end range stronger, but usually I find that not to be the case. It's usually something that we could do more efficiently at the bottom position. At least that's how I coach lift. I would rather see the weakness be, at chest level, because I think we'll be able to really develop that, and usually technique is good. And then once you get past that point, usually you can lock out just fine. But yes, there's certain situations where you just need to develop tricep strength. So hitting triceps more regularly, more volume, pin presses, floor presses, board presses, all that partial range type movements. Even slingshot to get some overload in there is a good thing to do. Doing the tricep push down backwards with your back towards the stack will change your life. Yeah, so that's a great one too, and I love the one where you do have your back position on a pad, and you can do push downs too, because you don't realize how much you're actually utilizing leverage when you're doing those push downs normally. All right, Adil. When can you tell if it's a sticking point issue or if the weight is just too heavy for the individual? So typically, what I call good failure is if I see someone press into a weight and it starts to slow down to a stop, but they're able to still grind through it for about 1 to 2 seconds or so. But nothing's changing, nothing's shifting, nothing's changing. Everything looks like it's transferring force into the bar well. Then we know it's just true. You have to get stronger. It's not really a technical breakdown. It's an issue with technique if you start to see, that you're pressing into that point, and then maybe you see an elbow start to shift out, or your body shift, you're trying to move your feet around, or whatever the case may be. Then we know, all right, so there's a bit of an issue going on there. And then sometimes it's a combination of both, right? And it's sometimes, you just didn't have the strength and technique was a little off, because when you're working max effort weight, it's not always going to look pretty. So it's usually, most times a combo. Ilmatic Power says RPE 10 every set and every rep. And I hope that answered your question there, Retkeem. If you want to send me a video, you can email me, coachben@bigbenches.com. I'd be happy just to take a look at that for you, and then we'll know if it's one of those bottom end issues or mid range. Steve, does RPE let you train more lazy and less intense as compared to percentage base? If you feel tired, you lift less weight but RPE, but percentage base, you don't lower weight based on how you feel. Yeah, so typically with percentages, that's kind of the drawback, but also a positive in what you're saying is that going in, you have to lift this weight. Or it's not, there's no auto regulation there. It's usually just, hey, we're at this point in the program, we need to hit this weight. Okay. RPE based on how you feel. I like that a lot more, in my opinion. I spend more time than not telling our lifters, don't get obsessed with the weight you're using, especially early in a training cycle. Okay, because it really doesn't matter. I could really care less what you're doing early in a training cycle. I want things to look good. I want things to move fast. I want that intent to be there, especially in the warm ups. And we'll probably do a lot more drilling, volume based stuff. But yeah, RPE will allow you to, if you are just off that day, which happens more times than not. If I had an athlete doing 97% single, and or I put it RPE 9. So let's look at those two things. RPE 9 versus a 93-95% single for the day. If they go in and hit that single, feels great, awesome. If they miss that because they had an off day and they didn't adjust, then they're going to have a big hit to their confidence. And then what's that going to do for future sessions, things like that? They're going to be upset. RPE, the key there with it is that you have that intuitive sense to know what you can take for the day based on how you feel. So you have to be more of an intuitive lifter. So it really comes down to the lifter, what they need. Do they need a kick in the butt? Then I'll have some kind of a percentage-based thing in there for them. If I know they're a very good intuitive lifter, they're going to be smart with their weight selection, I'll put in like an RPE based thing. Sometimes for some lifters, I just won't even put max because that's going to screw them up mentally. I know if they see a 3-rep max, they're going to try to go for an all-time PR or something. So sometimes I'll just put in the 1x3 and just be like, work up to a top set. And then I might assign an RPE number with it. So, that's coaching for you. You're going to have to know your lifters, you got to know their personality, and then you need to know how to make those small adjustments in programming to fit what they are like as a personality trait. Matt, what is the purpose of lifters doing back down sets? I see lifters on social media post a top set, then back down sets. So that's something that I've been utilizing a lot more in early part of the training cycle. It's just simply to get more volume in. Because that's the time we want to do it. We want to build the work capacity. We want to build more volume with the list. We want to do more work. So, it might be like work up to this 5-rep max. Then we're going to do back down sets 8, So that's something that I like to see in the first 4 to 8 weeks of a training program. That's something that we don't really do later on because I usually have a secondary movement in there. So it might be something like you have your 3-rep max squat and then you have pause squats after. So I'm not going to have you do back down sets after the main thing. Then we're worried more about performance value, not over fatiguing ourselves for workouts to come, and just trying to put the most intensity output we can while getting a sufficient recovery. So we have that base built up, and then we start to display that strength later on. But yeah, back down sets can be really great. Can you pin your mail? I'm not sure what you mean by that, my friend. But yeah, coachben@bigbenches.com. Anyone want to know my email, send me a video if you want. I'll take a look. Also, I recommend, of course, our Better Benching Academy at bigbenches.com. Once you sign up there, you get a login through our website and access all these exclusive videos that we post up there, my training recaps, and then also all our training programs are available in the Better Benching Academy, and we are coming out with an 8-week conjugate program as well. I have that written down to get that done, hopefully this week. So I have something exciting, hopefully coming out later today. A little 3-week kind of shock program. So if you're stuck at a bench press right now, it's 3 weeks to try to beat that bench press. kept it very simple, kept to the things that I think people need to dial back on and promote more. And within that 3 weeks, I'm very confident that we're gonna see a lot of 5, 10 pound PRs just like that 3 weeks. So I'm excited to launch that today and get that guy out to you guys. And then that 8 week conjugate bench, like I said, everything in the Better Benching Academy. So if you want additional help, definitely check that out. All right, Samuel. I'm trying to get into equipped benching. Haven't yet bought a shirt, but have been training with Titan Magnum Ram on my bench days. Is that a good way to kind of ease into equipped training? So yeah, I think that's a great way to kind of get accustomed to it. You're not gonna be able to replicate what you need to do in the shirt as much with the Ram. Yeah, you could work the shirt a groove kind of in a Ram, but you need to know how to do that first. Otherwise, you're just gonna be benching raw in your RAM. So that's kind of the loop you got to hurdle through here. Is that you kind of have to know what to do in a shirt to really get that out of a RAM. The one thing you will get out though is less technique, but more kind of developing that nervous system to handle that type of weight. You're gonna get accustomed to the weight loading, and the importance of locking your scaps down, staying tight, and creating tension under that weight. That's what you'll get out of using the RAM. But ultimately, nothing's going to quite perform like a shirt, like the shirt will. Rich Putnam's Bench Freak Band. If you go to his site, benchfreak.com, I think he might be still selling them. I'm not really sure. Luckily, I have one of the products he made, and that you can mimic a shirt groove, and it kind of will do that for you because it's simply a band goes around your elbows, different intensity settings, and that is a tool that you're going to want for your shirted bencher. It's a really great tool. Morgan Robert, what back movements do you recommend? Full body 3 times a week. I've been alternating weighted chins and barbell rows each workout. Is it necessary for back movements to be matched pulling set for set? All right, so let's dissect this a little bit. So what back movements do I recommend? And he's doing full body 3 times a week, alternating weighted chins and barbell rows. So I think you're off to a great start there. I think those are 3 movements that you can load up with pretty sufficient weight. Great if you're able to do heavy chins. I always just prefer doing pull downs at this point because I always end up just hurting myself trying to do pull-ups or chin-ups or something like that. So I stick to all like pull-down variations for the most part. But if you could do chin-ups, you could do the just pull-ups and stuff. That's great because that's gonna allow you to really overload and get, I think, a better training effect than if you were to do pull-downs. But I really don't think you gotta go crazy if you don't want to do chin-ups or can't really perform, or you gotta throw a band on there too. But barbell rows, I think, should really be a staple in some capacity. Having that heavy row, I think, what I would recommend overall, have a heavy row, have isolated upper back work where you're going through full protraction of the shoulder and then retraction before rowing. And then I would do some kind of a static row where you're actually holding that bottom end, whether you're doing a seal row or whatever, holding that for a solid 20 to 30 seconds with heavy weight. That's going to be how you would utilize your back when you bench press, right? We're in this position statically holding that tension. So important to train heavy row, upper back isolated work, because that's so crucial for bench pressing. I don't think enough people build up their upper back enough. I've seen tremendous results really targeting upper back and then doing a static hold. Steve, do you do any work to hit tendon and ligament strength? Not primarily. I do like doing like jam presses, something that puts you in a tough moment arm there when you're doing extensions, because it really builds some resiliency with that tricep tendon over time. That's something you probably feel in the session when you do it. Like, you can't just go into heavy, like, you can handle heavy weight doing an extension. You can push that weight, but you're not going to jump into it right off the bat. That is not something that you want to do. All right, you'll find that maybe so if I'm working up to like 50s doing a extension, right? I'm probably gonna start at like 20s, okay, and I'm gonna do like 20 reps and really work that first. And you'll probably feel popping in your elbow. You might feel some discomfort at first, but as soon as you progress up, you warm up, then you're handling some big weight. You're able to kind of jump to that weight. But doing that over time, I think builds a lot of resiliency through the tendons and things like that. But yeah, you could finish up with doing just really ridiculous high amount of like push downs and stuff like that. I definitely sometimes programming for our lifters, like just do 100 reps of tricep push downs at the end of the workout, or more commonly, 100 reps of face pulls. Just get that in the end of the workout, and we'll just steadily continue to build that up. Morgan Robert, how many sets of back would you recommend for full body 3 times a week? So the way I program in back work is we're doing back work with our athletes after every training session. It's usually about 1 to 2 exercises. I'd say on any given squat or deadlift day, it would be at least one back exercise. You were talking 3 to 4 reps. I'm sorry, 3 to 4 sets. Usually in that strength-based range of 5 to 8. And then on bench days, usually 2 back exercises after the bench. So in total, you're looking at about, what's that, 6 back exercises overall. You can get even more volume in there if you have a day just dedicated to back, which many of our bench only athletes have. A lot of extra back work in there because we have a whole session dedicated to doing back work. So usually though, around that 6 to 8 sets per week, and in varying ranges based on if you're doing isolated upper back work or static holds or heavy rows. So it really varies. Sip of coffee to the working man. Appreciate everyone tuning in, taking a little time out of your Tuesday to join us live. Make sure you go to the Better Benching Academy on bigbenches.com. Hope to see you inside there. Bunch of exclusive videos that we post up. I got 3 things dropping up there today. We're talking, how to set up more efficiently. Some of my top things for the setup. How to engage your hips, creating hip tension, proper leg drive. There's a video going up in the BBA about that today. And then I'm also, again, posting my weekly training recap. You can kind of get an idea of what I'm doing in my training, and some of the mental things behind shoulder lifting and all that. So that's going up today. 3 videos should be dropping in the Better Benching Academy. We just had someone join this morning. I reached out to him, was like, hey, if you ever need any help with anything, we were kind of shooting the shit back and forth a little bit, and very happy to have him on the team. But you're really joining a team, and I want it to be, you feeling welcomed to the team. Want you to get a lot out of our Facebook team group. So I'm really hoping that some of you take the time to go to the website today and join the BBA, the Better Benching Academy. Rakeem, I am from India. Hello from India, my friend. Following you since the last 6 months. My height is 5'7", age 26, weight 69 metric kilos. I want to play IPF. Thanks for great suggestions. Yeah, absolutely, my friend. That's awesome to hear. I actually coach a few lifters out in India, and some of the craziest gyms I've ever seen. Some of the commercial gyms I saw this guy training at, lights going everywhere. I feel like there were people on rollerblades. I have no idea what was going on. It was nuts, but hey, awesome to hear. Yeah, hope best of success for you. Feel free to reach out anytime. I'm happy to help you out with anything you may have questions on. All right, guys, I'm going to want to get to some from the Instagram the other day because we had some really good ones. Okay. I want to talk a little bit about coming back from tricep strain. This is something that I had to do not too long ago, a couple months ago. The shirt was I couldn't get it on fully. It was a breaking process, so it was still down here. You can kind of see some of the lacerations. This is just gnarly skin right now. It is rough. I don't know what has sharper skin, me or a shark right now. But that was during break-in. I think cutting into my tricep tendon nasty really put me on the shelf for 2, 3 weeks. But how to come back from that is really just exploring what you can do in the moment. So what I could do was I could do really high rep tricep pushdowns. That did not cause me much pain. Okay, if I pushed the weight a little bit too more, even on a push down, then that hurt me. So very, very high rep push downs. That's what I had to stick to. No benching, no skull crushers, nothing like that. I would test the water every now and then on like a neutral grip skull crusher. Keep it real close here. Don't create a huge moment arm there. Put a lot of stress on the elbow, the tricep. But I didn't really feel good with it. Had to slowly work into that. So it'd be push downs. It would be, sticking to cables, bands. Then I work in slowly to skull crush or some type of an extension. And then eventually worked back into benching. And during that time, I did whatever feet up, high rep benching I could tolerate. I'd be in the gym. It was kind of embarrassing. I'd be in the gym with a quarter on the bar, just kind of doing sets of 20. But that's how you would come back from something like that. You find what you can do. You keep a good mentality. You continue doing the things you can do. I mean, it's as simple as that, and then you just progress up to handling what you used to. You just have to be patient. It's the number one virtue for a powerlifter. You have to have patience. So that's how you come back, really, from any injury. Just find what you can do and do something. All right, it's really as simple as that. When I had the shoulder thing going on majority of last year, I couldn't do raw benching, so I didn't do any raw benching. I didn't do any secondary movements that was raw benching. I couldn't do all the stuff I would have liked to do, floor presses, board presses, the swinging press in the rack. I couldn't do any of that stuff, so I didn't do it. I did a lot of RAM work, did a lot of supported work with my shirt, started benching a shirt every week, got accustomed to that. That was amazing for me. So, I found positives in the situation and I just worked slowly back into it. Eventually, I could tolerate speed work. Eventually, I could tolerate a little bit more loading. And then, now I feel good. So, that's how you bounce back from any injury. But I'm sure some people really need to hear that. Corbin, hello. Do you do any neck workout and is it beneficial to implement some neck to training? So I think it's a more important thing to implement if you are an athlete such as a wrestler, football player, something like that. Then a product like the Iron Neck is really good. But as a power lifter, then I don't do really any isolated neck training. All right. If anything, I make sure that I get deep tissue massage around my neck, traps, things like that, because it's awfully tight and I'll pull my neck real easy. All right, so I'm not necessarily doing any neck training, especially for powerlifting directly, because we want to spend time on things that are going to probably give us a little more bang for our buck. But definitely, I think there is a lot of value in it as an athlete, especially in helping prevent concussions, to have a good, strong neck. All right, so yeah, but I wouldn't really worry about that as a power lifter. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about Inzer versus Titan shirt. So, any equipped lifters on here? I had a question the other day asking about the Inzer Bolt versus the Super Katana. I have not been in an Inzer Bolt, but my experience with the Inzer Rage X, a single ply shirt, and the SDP versus a Super Katana or any Titan stuff, I find Inzer to be much more forgiving. Okay, which means easier for beginners. All right, you're not going to be stuck in that final inch getting down to chest level. With typically a super katana, you get down to that final inch, bar slows down, and you really have to work for that touch. You have to be able to tuck into it, really exercise your technique. If you fall out of groove either which way, that weight's coming down. So it's a very fine line you draw with a super katana versus if you're in an Inzer Bolt, Rage X, SDP, I think it's a much more forgiving groove and you're going to have an easier time getting down to touch. So it really just depends on what kind of lift you are. Super Katana is great, but you really have to dial that in. You have to have patience with it. You really have to know shoulder technique. Andy Broski. Hi, I'm new to squats and I've been doing squats for about 2 weeks and I'm trying to activate the muscles in my butt. How do you activate the muscles in my glute? So We mostly talk bench here, but I'll cover that for you there, Andy. So when it comes to squatting, it's really important to definitely do some kind of activation drill beforehand. All right, do bird dogs, do some kind of glute bridging. I like the cook hip lift because then you're not going to go into lower back extension. You're going to have to actually use your glutes. Do some of those movements, fire hydrants, things like that to get your glutes going, or really utilizing them how they should in good position. And then when you go into your squat, really focus on what you're doing with your feet in terms of trying to spread your toes, grab onto the floor, start to twist into the floor and spread out. That's going to help really light up your glutes. And then you're trying to maintain that type of tension as you go down. Okay. So hopefully that helps you get a little bit more of that glute activation. We had a question come in the other day on how to identify a weak link, which I thought was a great question. All right. How do you identify a weak link? Okay. Well, first off, what I would do is I would look at the technique. Okay. Is there a glaring weakness here? Like sometimes it's just if we do this in the setup, you're going to get better at this. Sometimes it's as simple as that. You can just look at the lift and identify, what this person needs by what's happening or anything like that. If I'm seeing a lot of excessive rounding when they're going up in their squat, hips shooting up, whatever the case may be, not very stable in the bottom. I have them do a pause squat. They're very unstable. They're bouncing around. You could tell a lot just by looking at someone. So like when someone first comes into our training program, our coaching service, that first week especially, I'm like just trying to dissect and pick apart like what's happening in their lifts. If I'm seeing this, then that'll influence programming right away. Like if I'm seeing something, sometimes I'll go in and just change secondary work for the next week to address it. And that's ever changing. But that where you fail on a max effort lift's going to tell us a lot too. And then, a movement such as like if close grip, if you really suck at close grip, then probably a good idea to train triceps a bit more to get that closer to your bench. If you really suck at overhead pressing, probably need to develop your shoulders a little bit more, and then you'll see your bench go up. So those are ways you can identify a weak link. I thought that was a great question, though. Rise Sharp, can you name some ways to know that my back is tight enough and my shoulders are down enough on the bench? Do I just squeeze as tight as possible all the time? Yeah, so you definitely want to be, you want to be squeezing with everything you got. You have to bring as much intensity as possible to that position. You can never not give enough, or you can never sorry, screwed my words up there. You can never give enough towards that positioning. So you need to keep your shoulder blades squeezed as much as possible. Your goal, it's not just, all right, let me pack in here. Let me tuck down a little bit. All right, here we go. Get the bar. It's boom, we're gonna squeeze this right here. We're gonna pull this shoulder blade down and roll that bar down. Has to be a lot of intensity of what you're doing. You get me all fired up. Sip of coffee for you. But yeah, you see me come off the bench. You see my back after a shirted bench. You look at my back, there's a big red mark right down the middle of my upper back. Okay. Really need to bring that intensity to the position. Can't stress that enough. You can never squeeze your back enough. But yeah, you are trying to pinch as much as possible, and then just be careful with the tuck, because the pinch is the thing you have to maintain. So as soon as you bring your shoulder blades down, it's only going to be like this right there. That's all you need to go. Okay, if you try to pull your shoulder blades anymore, see what happens. My shoulders start to widen out. My shoulder blades drift out. So you don't need to overdo that tuck, but you need to squeeze that pinch. Stephen Prout, how much should you be able to lift on close grip in relation to your comp bench? So I think the number is around somewhere like 80, if not a little bit more percent. The article I would refer you to is Charles Poliquin. I think you just search like body imbalance, Charles Poliquin, something like that in Google. It'll pop up as a T Nation article, and he had a great article about what your other lifts should be relative to like your 1 rep max bench press. So like the overhead press should be 60%. If it's not 60%, you're probably going to get a lot out of training it. If it's already at 60 or above, you're probably not going to get a ton out of doing more overhead pressing. It doesn't mean you won't, but diminishing returns there. So, yeah, I would recommend you go check out that article. I think it's from like 1999, but it was really good in terms of associating certain lifts where they should be in relation to your 1 rep strength. All right, I'll answer a few more here. I'll tell you, I got some from Instagram that came in the other day. Still some great ones here. I'll carry this. I'll touch on this one because I think a lot of you can benefit. Does the slingshot carry over to raw? So I see a lot of raw benchers using the slingshot quite a bit, excessively at some times. So the only slingshot I'd really recommend for someone benching really under 350 pounds is a blue slingshot. I think anything more than that is just not really needed. Okay, I think it gives you a little bit more than is really needed. If you're benching over 350, especially in the 400s, 500s, I think then you can start really implementing the red slingshot. If you're way up there in an elite territory, mid 500-600 benches, then potentially maybe you could use the black slingshot, get more overload. But you don't want to be a 300-pound bencher throwing on a red slingshot and benching over 400 pounds. It's just not gonna, the carryover is not going to be there. I don't think a red slingshot will do that for you. So I don't care too much if athletes to start working with only have a red slingshot, but you don't want to go completely overkill. It's like you don't want to do if you're a 500-pound squatter, you don't want to be throwing on reverse band tension that is going to take 300 pounds off the bottom, or you're going to get down there. It's going to feel like a bodyweight squat, and then all of a sudden you're handling 600 at the top. So you don't want that because it's not going to give you a training effect. Unless some reason you're just really trying to train that pec and you had to really adjust the band tension perfect. But, rarely do you want to cause that big of a discrepancy. So again, there's a good carryover, but I would mostly use the blue reactive slingshot, not to give you too much, but to give you some assistance. And then, try to keep the weight that you select within what you could potentially do raw. You know what I mean? So if you're going for that 400 at a meet, but you bench 375 now, you should train at 400 because you can do 425 in the slingshot. Doesn't necessarily mean you should. I would get that exact weight in your hands and get a feel for that. You know what I'm saying? Stephen Prout, thanks, man. Check that out anytime, my friend. Yeah, definitely check that out. It's a great article. Take a few more cues. We had a question come in about creating the best arch. I'm going to point you in the direction of our Better Benching Academy for that, because I am going to be talking about that in a post today. So guys, really check out bigbench.com, go to the BB Academy, see if that's something that you'd be interested. I'm betting if you're watching this right now, you want to find ways to improve your bench press in a big way. I think the BB Academy is going to be the best thing for you. I'm really putting a lot of time and effort into trying to develop that and put the best content I can in there. So I would love to have you join the team. Join us in the Academy, Better Benching Academy. Check that out, bigbench.com. All right, but we do talk on that a little bit in a post today, and then also I just sent out an email, okay, with my 3 top cues for mastering the setup, and I also included a video, a picture of me several years ago, where my bench started. I was like, this much range, and then to now it's like I'm starting with this much range, and some of the things that really helped me along the way to drop that much range of motion in my bench, which you can do too. So you want to be on our email list. Make sure that you go to bigbench.com/free program. That'll get you on there. So if you're looking to get the free 6-week bench program, you can go to bigbenches.com/free program, and that'll bring you there. You can download that program and also get onto our email list with a bunch of extra great tips for you as well. Corbin, what should be the opener in powerlifting competition? 90% of max, two second 95, and then should I go for 100? Well, I would definitely go over 100 because you're going to want a PR at the meet or have the potential to. I guess it really just depends on the athlete, what's going on in training. I don't really do where you do certain percentage jumps. I do more based on, what's our goal this meet? Are we trying to beat a particular lifter? We're trying to qualify for something. Are we trying to really shoot for that one lift, get a big PR in this one lift? What combination of squat, bench, deadlift is going to get us to our end goal? That's going to be very different for every lifter. If I have a brand new lifter, we're probably going to be something very along the lines of what you're saying. We might not even increase our gym PR at the meet. It really just depends on how things are moving there. I want a newer lifter to have a really good day and to feel successful and to feel confident. That's the important thing. So it really just depends on the lifter and really what's their goal this meet? What are we trying to achieve? And that's going to be very different for everyone. So again, I don't really do percentages in terms of that, but I do think 93% would be a really good safe bet for an opener. 93% usually is something that you can triple. All right, usually a max triple. So that's something that you're going to want to do an opener at. And then, yeah, I would say maybe 97% for the second, and then something over 100. But it really depends. You want to go for a PR in the second, have the opportunity to take it again. If there's a technical flaw, it's just so many variables in terms of what we're going to do at a meet. Matt, what should I do if the guy on the bench next to me wants to try out bench me? Do I smoke them or let them get smashed under the bar? I guess you gotta fight for your territory, my friend. You gotta mark your territory. This is your gym. You gotta show them. You gotta show them who's the big fish in the pond. Robert King, I injured my shoulder. There is a painful impingement when I move my arm a certain way. Any strong advice for recovery and resuming my bench press goal? I'm 58. I was benching 225 for 8 reps. So that's something I would probably go and get checked out, my friend, especially if it's a painful thing. So I would go and seek out a good PT. Matt actually is a great PT. So yeah, definitely reach out to him, shoot him a message. But that's something I would go get checked out by a professional in that realm. And then hopefully, boom, we're back to benching. But in the meantime, anytime there's an injury situation, from my perspective, I'm looking at what can my athlete do now without that pain. Okay, so I just shared the story earlier about what happened when I had my tricep strain or when my shoulder hurt. In the meantime, while I'm trying to fix those things and do what I can to recover, I'm doing what I can. Okay, and it really comes down, do what you can. Can you do tricep push downs? Maybe you got to start there. You know what I mean? And just try to build up those muscles that are included in the bench. For those of you who maybe your gyms are shutting down, we've had athletes whose gyms shut down recently too on them, and just still crazy stuff where they're having to train at home, which is bands and dumbbells and things like that. See that as an opportunity, because maybe some of you are in the same boat. See that as an opportunity because you're going to approach it one or two ways. You're going to stop training or you're going to get creative. Okay, and I'd rather see someone get creative. I'd rather see them take that time to address their weak points. And I tell you, spending that month to address those weak points in terms of like shoulder stability or back strength, working a lot of like banded row holds, maybe doing more core work. It's a great opportunity to continue to advance yourself. And I tell you, most people usually need to take a step back and develop those things anyways. So it's a great opportunity if you find yourself having to train at home with minimal equipment. Take advantage of that time. Don't see it as, oh shit, I can't get in the gym, I'm going to decline now. See it as, all right, this is forcing me to do something new. This is forcing me to make progress in a different way and doing things that I probably should have been doing in the first place but didn't really get to. So always look at it as there's an opportunity. All right, guys, that's our questions from Instagram. I'll take a few more bench questions here. Sip of coffee. Did it work, man? Again, I'll drop a little line about our Better Benching Academy. Definitely go check that out. BigBenches.com, BB Academy. What you find in there is just all this additional videos that you won't be able to get on our YouTube. So if you enjoy our YouTube content, we have it all categorized in the BBA, and we're talking things to help you with recovery, things to help you with your bench setup, any technical aspect that you're benching. Programs are available in there as well. All our programs are in there, free for members of the BBA. So go check that out. My training recaps are up there. We'll probably start doing some exclusive Q&As, or when it hopefully gets a little bit warmer out. I definitely want to do an exclusive like live webinar for our BBA members. So really try to go above and beyond for the Better Benching Academy. So definitely, if you enjoyed today, just give that a look. You don't have to sign up, but I'd love you to at least give that a look over on our website. Also, another free resource, if you go to bigbenches.com/free program, you'll be able to download our 6-week bench program. What book am I reading? Right now I'm reading Conscious Coach by was it Brett Bartholomew or something. It's good, but I don't have a good attention span, and I really need a certain type of writing to really follow well. Louis Simmons' book, very tough for me to follow, just because it's very repetitive, and he talks fast. You can kind of get that he writes fast too. This book in particular, a lot of big words. I'm not opposed to big words. I love sophisticated writing, but a lot of references to certain studies, things like that. But it's very smartly written, and so for me, I need a little bit of a dumbed down version. I need, there's a few books that I've read that popped out where it's just like you can just follow along, like how it's written, like Jim Ross, for example. I was reading his books. You're just able to follow along really well, as opposed to this where I'm kind of like falling out of groove with it every couple sentences. Some books it's just like you're just in tune with what they're saying and you don't want to put it down. And this one, not really my style, but it's great information. Stephen Prout. Do you think it's necessary to include lateral and rear delt isolation work if you're benching and overhead pressing 20 plus sets per week? No, I think see what happens without it, and then you can slowly work that in if you want. Robert King seems to be improving, but there's pain when I move my arm a certain way. Yeah, so definitely connect with Matt on Instagram. I think he'll help you out big time. Theo Drake, hey Big Benches, what's your opinion on conjugate method? Well, I utilize a form of conjugate programming for our athletes for large majority. So I'm a big fan. Especially for the bench press. I like how you're handling high intensity weights on a very frequent basis, which I think is real important for the bench. But I've also had athletes who don't take to that very well, and we take more of a linear approach. So, it really just depends. But I'm a fan. Matt, do you recommend singles, doubles, or triples for working sets? I recommend them all. Really just depends on where you're at in the programming, how things are kind of structured out. But yeah, I recommend singles, doubles, and triples, and 4s and 5s and 6s and 7s and 8s and 9s and 10s. Really just depends on where you're at. All right, guys. Maybe I'll take one more question, and then we're out of here. It's gonna be my lunch break. Sip of coffee to you. Finished out the cup. Take a couple more cues. Make sure you guys go over to bigbenches.com/free program if you want to download our 6-week bench program, and also our Better Benching Academy. Make sure you don't miss out on that. Owen Lewis, what are the best cues for correct shoulder and back retraction on the bench? What it should feel like? I always think I'm doing it wrong. So in terms of This is the last question I'll address right now. We got to get going here, but what are the best cues for correct shoulder and back retraction on the bench? So when it comes to pinching your shoulders, so I'll tell you the main faults I see. All right, I think everyone understands that they need to have their shoulders pinched. All right, I don't think that lifters take advantage of leverage as much as they should, meaning pushing against something to actively push your shoulder blades into a better position. I can only pinch my shoulder blades so far myself, but if I can use something to really jam them up tight and get even tighter, I'm going to. Um, I think everyone understands how to pinch their shoulders, but the big thing is getting that tuck. So when you get that big shoulder pinch here, right, you're trying to pretty much just lengthen your neck because you don't want to overdo that tuck because your shoulder blades are going to drift apart. You can't sacrifice those shoulder blades staying strong together. So really, when you squeeze your back, it's just a subtle. Let's get our neck a little bit longer. And during these setup, I see a lot of athletes end up squeezing their back, but they're in this up kind of shrugged up position underneath the bar, and then they take it out, and sometimes they get down to this position, but rarely do they. They're hanging out in their shoulders, so the important thing is on the setup when you're pushing back on the bench that you have that pinch, but then you're letting your neck kind of traction out and stretch on you, keeping that pinch and get everything positioned as far down as you can. So I'm thinking distance between my ear and my shoulder top here. Okay, and then maintaining that when the weight comes out, we're trying to squeeze even harder and retract down even more without losing that pinch. So hopefully that explains a little bit more for you. Yeah, and as Robert says, you can meet me on a bench. So I appreciate everyone tuning in. I really appreciate it. Spending a little bit of Tuesday on our live show. Again, go to bigbench.com/better or the BB Academy in there, Better Benching Academy. Go check that out. I hope to see you on the inside. Hope to reach out to you immediately. So join us in there. All right, guys. Appreciate it. I'll talk to y'all next week.